For nearly 4 decades, Judge Greg Mathis and his wife Linda represented something unusual in celebrity society: longevity, devotion, and quiet power. Just a marriage that appeared to withstand celebrity without losing its foundation. No scandals, no public mayhem. That's why the next event nearly took the world by surprise. A love story that began long before cameras in courtrooms took a tragic turn. Fans were left perplexed and looking for clarification. Music, it was just an abrupt change that didn't add up. There was no exploding headline moment or public accusation. The tale got much more convoluted as rumors began to fill the void. So, what really transpired behind the scenes? What could force a guy who established his reputation on responsibility to confront the most intimate challenge of his life? A jail judge forged. Greg Mathis was born in the heart of Detroit, raised parents Charles and Alice Lee Mathis. But it was his mother who dictated the trajectory of his life. Alice was a devoted Seventh-day Adventist who put in long, tiring hours as a housekeeper and nurse's assistant in order to support her family. By the time the social upheaval of the 1960s and 1970s arrived, she was divorced, music, parenting 4 boys alone, and she was responsible for the entire home. The Herman Gardens housing developments, where Mathis would spend her formative years, were where she and her sons moved in 1964. They stayed until about 1970, when drugs and violence made it hard for them to flee. It was a hard situation for anyone, let alone a single mother attempting to keep 4 boys on the right path. Alice battled back the only way she knew how, via discipline, faith, and structure. Despite having to leave her sons alone in a dangerous neighborhood, she worked 2 jobs, sometimes doing nighttime shifts and other times cleaning houses during the day. She was persistent about education and spirituality. Church could not be negotiated. Homework was mandatory. The household was anchored by prayer and family dinners. But the streets outside their house were louder and more convincing than any preaching. The lessons given at home started to deteriorate over time due to this strain. Mathis and his siblings were lured into street life, a fact that would eventually become important to the story of his redemption. As a youngster, Mathis was regularly in trouble, wandering into crimes including handbag snatching, breaking and entering, music, and robbery. Everything fell apart at the age of 17. He spent 9 months in Wayne County Jail due to a hidden weapons charge, which made him face the extent of his decline. His mother visited him while he was in prison and brought some terrible news. She had cancer of the colon. Around the same time, the judge supervising his case provided a stark choice: remain in jail or get a GED. Early probation was given to Mathis. But soon after, he made a vow to his dying mother, which was the event that really changed his life. That pledge served as his moral, music, compass, influencing all of his subsequent choices. The path ahead was far from easy. After his release, Mathis found a job at McDonald's flipping burgers. Not because it was glamorous, but because it kept him focused, employed, and probation compliant. It was survival work, but it kept him moving forward. A breakthrough came when a close family friend helped him enroll music at Eastern Michigan University. There, Mathis acquired a passion for politics and public service. He joined the Democratic Party and organized demonstrations against South Africa's apartheid, becoming very involved on campus. Music, he was practicing government rather than merely studying it. Having earned a degree in public administration, Mathis set his sights on the City Hall in Detroit. He started off as a city council employee before joining Mayor Coleman Young's administration, managing a district city hall and maintaining a close connection to the neighborhood through music. Following Mayor Young's retirement in 1992, Mathis turned his attention to practicing law and committed himself to defending young adults, music, who brought back memories of his own self. Then his past emerged. A significant barrier to Mathis's application for a law license was his criminal history. Rather than accept loss, he contested the ruling all the way to the Michigan Supreme Court and won. Music, the errors of his youth were overshadowed by his years of public trust and community work. The story garnered national attention when Mathis, music, ultimately took the bench. It seemed nearly unbelievable for a former prisoner to become a judge in just 15 years. The accusations that altered everything. Judge Greg Mathis' music unexpectedly became embroiled in a real-life drama back in 2019 that seemed eerily similar to one of his own episodes. This time, however, the courthouse was substituted with the sidewalk outside Flood's Bar and Grill, a well-known soul food, music, restaurant in Detroit. According to tales that eventually surfaced, Mathis had pulled up in his Rolls-Royce for a Friday night out. The evening went perfectly until it came time to go. The judge was left waiting after a valet, music, who was still holding Mathis' automobile keys, unintentionally jumped into the wrong car. Minutes passed by, frustration rose, and when the valet finally returned, things apparently boiled over. According to sources, the valet expressed regret and gave an explanation for the error, but Mathis, obviously agitated, retaliated with a furious tirade. With claims that Mathis, music, spat on the employee before leaving in his car, the situation allegedly got much worse. Detroit police first avoided naming the culprit, but a department spokesperson, music, subsequently confirmed the incident specifics, and police sources named Judge Mathis as the guy involved. It was a stark contrast to the calm authority people were used to seeing on television. Mathis, however, emphatically refuted the most serious charge. In public, he admitted to raising his voice, but he maintained that there was no spitting. He claimed that after waiting for around 40 minutes, the valet's explanation simply made things worse. Mathis claims that the conversation ended with just words. He also questioned the timing and intent underlying the claims, implying they were financially driven. At that point, no criminal charges had been filed, and Mathis, music, indicated that law authorities had not contacted him personally. Mathis provided an additional explanation by stating that he was coping with a medical problem that evening. He stated he had a long-standing stomach issue and needed medication that was stored, music, in his trunk, making the delay extra distressing. The valet's attorney pushed back fiercely. He said that Mathis did in music, fact spit on his client and that they planned to test the valet's clothes for DNA proof. The attorney further asserted that Mathis boasted to onlookers about the incident, claiming that witnesses were available to corroborate it. That assertion was also refuted by Mathis, who claimed to have several witnesses ready to provide a radically different account of what happened. Years later, in December 2024, Mathis faced another major accusation. This time in Los Angeles, Ricardo Aosta, a city employee, indicated that he intended to file a lawsuit regarding an alleged altercation that allegedly occurred outside Mathis's residence in July 2023. The complaint states that Aosta parked a dump truck in a way that obstructed Mathis' driveway when he was employed by the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power. Mathis, music, allegedly lost his temper, verbally abused Aosta, and even threatened him with a gun, according to the complaint. Aosta said the event constituted to assault and caused enduring emotional trauma. Mathis's legal team promptly refuted the charges. His lawyer stressed that the LAPD never looked into the incident and characterized the prospective lawsuit as an effort at extortion. She stated unequivocally that Mathis would vigorously retaliate with countersuits for wrongful conduct and defamation if a lawsuit were launched. The lawsuit itself depicted a tumultuous situation. It said Mathis stood close behind the truck, calling for Aosta, music, to move it. According to reports, Aosta attempted to clarify that the truck was on an incline and need room to transport music safely, but Mathis allegedly brushed the matter aside and carried on intensifying the altercation. The most severe claim followed shortly after with allegations that Mathis walked back inside his home, returned with a gun, and threatened to shoot him. Aosta stated the experience had a significant negative impact on him, necessitating the need for legal and medical assistance. In addition to future earning potential and the emotional harm he claims the encounter caused, he is seeking reimbursement for lost wages. When taken as a whole, these episodes have raised concerns about what happens when the judge leaves the courtroom and enters the real world, complicating the public perception of a man who has long been known for administering justice on television. What truly ended? Judge Mathis. Greg Mathis is one of those names that need no explanation. He has been a regular sight in American living rooms for many years. Most recognized as Judge Mathis' visage. This was no ordinary courtroom drama, either. It turned into one of the longest-running programs in the history of the genre. Judge Judy, The People's Court, and Divorce Court are the only three court shows that rate higher than Judge Mathis, which puts it into perspective. But a closer look reveals the true difference. While Divorce Court and The People's Court went through cancellations, reboots, music, and a revolving door of judges, Judge Mathis kept steady. Greg Mathis never left the bench and the production itself never changed hands. Judge Judy alone might say the same thing. With the same judge and original production still in place, Judge Mathis became the longest-running court show after Judge Judy's unprecedented 25-season run concluded in 2021. That was the reason 2022 seemed so unexpected. Warner Brothers canceled Judge Mathis in a broad decision that marked a significant change in daytime television. At the very same time, they simultaneously pulled the plug on The People's Music Court, then hosted by Marilyn Millian. It wasn't just two shows ending. A whole period seemed to be coming to an end. After making her debut in 1999, Judge Mathis concluded her career after 24 music seasons. The People's Court closed after 26 seasons dating back to 1997. Together with Tilictor, Warner Brothers created both unscripted television programs, which Warner Brothers Domestic Television distributed. These were the mainstays of daytime television, and then they vanished. Industry sources pointed to a deeper problem: the steady decline of daytime syndication. Local stations were slashing funds. Advertising funds were drying up. And syndicated shows were growing difficult to justify financially. Many station groups concluded it was cheaper and safer to grow local news programming instead of paying for syndicated information. The math simply stopped working. Greg Mathis addressed his audience personally shortly after the news broke, outlining the true events. He clarified that the show didn't cease because viewers stopped attending. He claimed that Warner Brothers had decided to abandon judging shows completely as part of a larger strategy. He also made a pretty clear point. His story did not end there. He even suggested that a new project was already underway, and this time he wanted it constructed in a different way. Modi started focusing on black-owned studios, black artists, and black business owners. It was an easy but crucial aim. Establish genuine ownership, power, and opportunity rather than only surface-level representation. He spoke freely about how many of the diversity promises made by corporations in Hollywood in recent years had silently disappeared. He cited accounts of projects being canceled and entire teams of color being replaced, in music, at a time when there was an increasing need for real black stories. This wasn't only disappointing to Mathis. It was a call to action. While the courtroom doors were closing, another portion of his life was opening up on TV. Writing, music, the success of his legal practice, Mathis took viewers into his home with Mathis Family Matters. The reality show provided an uncommon glimpse into his life as a husband, father, and family guy. Music, he wasn't the original creator of the concept. It started with his son Amir, who was a producer and was inspired by Steve Harvey to start his own family-oriented program. At first, Mathis wasn't convinced, but Amir made a persuasive case. Their family wasn't based around chaos or manufactured drama. All four Mathis children were grown professionals in their 30s handling employment, relationships, and personal issues in real time. That became the center of the show. It wasn't about viral moments or violent altercations. It was about observing successful adults deal with the challenges, imperfections, and development of real life. Mathis laid out one strong guideline before filming began. No fighting, no screaming, no harmful conduct. He wanted the show to convey positivism, accountability, and love. Immediately, audiences reacted. The show was hailed as wholesome, revitalizing, and profoundly uplifting by viewers. A lot of people said it was a strong and uncommon example of black achievement, stability, and love. For Mathis, the reaction underlined he'd made the right call. And just when it seemed like he could be stepping away from the courtroom for good, 2023 came another turn. A fresh series brought Greg Mathis back to the bench. Mathis, Music, Court with Judge Mathis, created by Allen Media Group. He was hailed as a pillar of the company's expanding lineup by Byron Allen, who described him as iconic and incredibly charismatic. The new program debuted as a daily music series that aired on broadcast, cable, and internet channels for an hour. The relationship felt intimate to Mathis. He considered Allen Media Group to be a contemporary Madonna of court television because both guys were from Detroit. After this, Judge Greg Mathis divorced his wife right away. Linda and Gregory Mathis' story doesn't start in a courtroom or in a flashy Hollywood setting. It starts quietly on a college campus at Eastern Michigan University. They met as students, young and figuring life out, and stayed together for 4 full years before deciding to get engaged. They were married on June 1, 1985, long before they were involved with cameras, celebrity, or an Emmy-winning television program. They started a family from scratch over the years, raising Jade, Camer, Greg Jr., and Amir as their 4 children. Their marriage was seen as an example of stability for many years. As a result, many people were surprised to learn in August 2024, music, that Judge Gregory Mathis and Linda were divorcing. The couple was formally pursuing a divorce after having really split up the previous month in July. Court records stating July 17 as the official date of separation were filed by Linda yet Mathis on August 22. The explanation offered after over 40 years of dating was straightforward and sobering: irreconcilable differences. Additionally, Linda asked for spousal music support. However, it is unclear if the pair actually signed a prenuptial agreement. They had just graduated from college when they got married, years away from the prosperity and success that would come to characterize Judge Mathis' public persona. It was logical that the shock occurred. Gregory Mathis had always talked candidly and affectionately about his spouse. He posted an old picture from their wedding day in April 2021, where he thanked Linda for helping him change his life, music, and that he hoped their story would encourage other couples. When he was given his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame a year later, he made it apparent that he wasn't the only one who had achieved achievement. On Mathis Family Matters, their reality program, he recalled his time in Detroit and said that he was able to work long hours and pursue his goals because of Linda's encouragement. That kind of reciprocal support was just the way their family functioned, Linda, who sat comfortably next to him, confirmed. Even in recent years, the public image of their connection seems robust. Gregory shared pictures from a vacation in Cabo in early January, showing the two kissing and spending time together as 2023 came to an end. That same year, they spent part of the summer traveling through Europe on Magic Johnson's huge super yacht alongside other high-profile couples like Michael Jordan and Samuel L. Jackson. Photos from Greece, France, music, and Italy showed Gregory with his arms wrapped around Linda, both smiling and calm, enjoying in what looked like a fantastic holiday. They continued to appear together at public gatherings by March, such as the Influencers Brunch. Gregory characterized their family as pleasant and cohesive, stressing that they didn't argue when asked if their reality program will return. Linda reiterated his sentiments, stressing how essential it was to show the world strong, loving Black families, music, without perpetual conflict. Nothing seemed out of place when 2024 got underway. Cabo's social media posts and red carpet interviews conveyed a sense of intimacy and pride in the life they had created together. Fans were therefore left looking for music answers when the split was made public only a few months later. It was difficult for many people to accept that a 40-year marriage could collapse without a more profoundly concealed turning point in the court of public opinion. Suddenly, the questions started to come up. Nowadays, as soon as a well-known marriage ends, the internet takes over. The holes are filled by speculation long before facts do. In this instance, it didn't take long for Judge Mathis to gain prominence. Almost quickly, allegations began flying that he had been unfaithful. The narrative then developed into something much more dramatic. Online discussion went from rumors of adultery to full-blown claims of a secret child, with comments sections pushing a dramatic side baby story as if it were accepted fact. Beneath all of that commotion, however, was a serious issue. No evidence was found. No reliable music reports came to light. No purported companion came forward. And the claims were never supported by anything tangible. But the rumors became so loud, music, that Mathis had to speak out against them. While passing through LAX, he spoke freely to TMZ, characterizing the event as one of the worst periods of his life. Instead of avoiding blame, he acknowledged responsibility for music, the dissolution of his marriage, framing his experience as a warning to other males. He made it apparent that although he was not leading a parallel life, he could see how his wife Linda might have thought music was something else. Neglect was the main problem, he acknowledged. Mathis admitted that his wife had gradually become less important to him, occasionally taking precedence over his responsibilities to his job, his community, and even his social life. He acknowledged that he neglected to make time for his spouse because he was always traveling, filming his show, and hanging out with pals. He had told his wife and himself that things would, music, change when his show's production relocated from Chicago to Los Angeles in 2023. More time at home and a renewed emphasis on their relationship were anticipated as a result of the move. According to Mathis, the promise went unmet. By the time he realized the harm, the relationship had already broken down since he continued to be busy in travel. In a subsequent discussion, Mathis was adamant about dispelling the most outrageous allegations. He made it plain there was no secret child involved and emphatically disputed any darker rumors that had begun spreading online. What remained, he added, was lot more ordinary and far more terrible. Emotional distance and absence cause stress in a long-term marriage. He also discussed how his lifestyle may have encouraged suspicion. Doubt might readily develop because he was away for weeks at a time, touring the nation, going to events, and interacting with people without his wife. From his perspective, he understood why that pattern raised doubts, even if infidelity was never his aim. He insisted that adultery was not the reason their marriage had reached this breaking point and that his travels had never been about chasing another relationship. Social media was lighted up by those comments. User groups on X swiftly developed, with some expressing compassion and others condemning his decisions. Some questioned how he could be blindsided by divorce papers after weeks on the trip, while others stressed how emotionally terrible divorce can be and encouraged sympathy. As for Mathis, he believes he's not ready to let go just yet. Even after the breakup, he and Linda were still living under the same roof, trying to keep things cordial and friendly. His desire to make amends for what went wrong and demonstrate that genuine reform is achievable has been transparent. In his mind, this chapter isn't over. He genuinely thinks that there is still a possibility to save the marriage before everything is finalized if he puts up constant effort and accepts full responsibility. On the exterior, however, the equilibrium seemed off. While Mathis came across as a man still getting his bearings, determined, hopeful, and uncertain of how or even if the journey back would come together, Linda remained largely silent. By October, things started to shift. Mathis appeared cautiously hopeful, assuring reporters that a reconciliation was on the horizon. Focusing on presence rather than pace, he talked of spending much more time at home and eventually, music, doing the work he had long put off. It felt more than just words for the first time. Then came November 2024 when it became evident that his persistence, music, had paid off. Months after openly vowing to get his wife back, Mathis acknowledged that their marriage was no longer in limbo. The two were actively rebuilding and this time the improvement felt real. Reflecting on the incident, Mathis regarded it as a crucial breaking point, the kind that pushes growth and redirects purpose. After spending decades serving at-risk youngsters after being incarcerated and escaping the streets, he now identified his objective as being closer to home, preserving and promoting Black love. Additionally, affection had returned to their daily lives, as he freely acknowledged. When asked whether he was officially out of trouble, Mathis declined to speak for his wife, choosing humility over victory laps. Linda, for her part, said very little, but her presence alongside him said enough. They were there together, and that alone spoke volumes. The comeback was evident by July 2025, over a year after their marriage had reached its lowest ebb. A fresh image of the couple kissing in music, New York City started making the rounds on the internet and soon became viral. It wasn't an isolated moment, either. Months before, Mathis had shared a lighthearted, music-loving video of himself serenading Linda during a karaoke moment at a party, culminating once again with a kiss. The message was plain. Something had altered, and whatever effort was done behind the scenes had made a perceptible effect. The couple appeared on the Tamron Hall show later that year, in October 2025, for an incredibly candid discussion. Together, they recalled the pressure that nearly killed their marriage and revealed how that same rupture finally brought them back together. Mathis freely said that from the start, his profession had negatively impacted their relationship. His regular travel and busy schedule meant Linda handled most of the burden at home. A dynamic that slowly undermined equilibrium and connection. Still, they acknowledged that after splitting in August 2024, they didn't waste the time apart. Though the physical separation lasted barely 3 weeks, the emotional labor was severe. They established the foundation for a more robust collaboration by concentrating on personal development and accountability. Ahead of the interview, Linda noted that the process had been surprisingly positive, describing their progress as steady, significant, and deeply rewarding. She also supplied vital information about her decision to file for divorce in the first place. She still prioritized her children above all else, but eventually she came to the realization that she had been neglecting herself for too long. After years of being the emotional anchor of the family, she sought to recover her own well-being. She clarified that this change served as the basis for a more harmonious partnership going forward. Mathis was devastated by their breakup. He stated that the pain paralleled the loss of his mother, a contrast that emphasized just how deeply the encounter affected him. He claimed he was driven to do whatever it needed to save the marriage because of that degree of pain. Just saying sorry wasn't sufficient. In order to reconnect in ways they hadn't in years, the couple had to gradually find each other. Although Mathis never moved out physically, Linda observed that there was a genuine and challenging emotional disconnect during that time. Still, the effort paid off. She described their current chapter as joyous, music, and continuously growing, noting that the process of reuniting has been something they sincerely enjoy. Their son, Music, Greg Mathis Jr. mirrored that sense of stability, later discussing the experience in public when attending the NAACP Image Awards in Los Angeles. Preparing for the release of his new BT Plus video, he pondered on how bizarre it was to watch his parents' private troubles unfold so publicly. He noted that the family is now in a good place and expressed relief and thankfulness that they managed to resolve the upheaval. The Mathis family seems to have regained stability in the end. Not by avoiding the flaws, but by facing them head-on and choosing day by day to rebuild.